Hey guys, it's Victoria. So I'm doing the intro without Devin. For once, a couple of quick news announcements before we start this episode, which is episode 33 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. So right off the bat, happy 60th birthday to Townsend Coleman, who is the voice of Jason in Adventures in Odyssey. And second, congratulations to Bob Smithhauser, who is taking over production at the Adventures in Odyssey Adventure Club. It's kind of what it's named. He's taking over product management or just management in general, from Brock, who is sadly leaving the OAC. And lastly, before we start the episode, congratulations to Focus on the Family for their audio production of Oliver Twist, winning the Audio Awards, which are very prestigious, as I was told by Devin. So, this episode is a lore episode, which is kind of copying in our own special way the famous lore channel on YouTube. And what lore means is it's kind of just explaining a backstory of something. So we're doing that with some Odyssey characters. We've already done one for Whit. And even though the original concept of the channel is lore in a minute, ours are a bit longer than a minute because we have a bit more to explain. So this one's going to be for Miss Connie Kendall. I think that was the right... or whatever. And so quickly before that, as mentioned in the last episode, Devin wanted me to show you guys this. This is my Keyblade, Mickey Mouse charm right here. And it is cooler than most Keyblades other people have. Yes, I just went there to tell you people have Keyblades. Because mine flips off and becomes a sword. I bet yours doesn't do that. So unfortunately, it's a concealed weapon then, can't take it to conventions, but it's really cool to have by my bookshelf while I read, because while I'm reading things about killing dragons with swords, I can be holding one. Anyway, time to start. See you guys!
This is lore number 2 for Connie Kendall, accurate up to episode 742, Drake the Cosmic Copper. Constance Kendall was born to Bill and June Kendall between July 23rd and August 22nd, likely in Los Angeles, California. Bill is the son of Mildred Kendall, a woman who continually and unsuccessfully tried to share her faith with Bill. June was raised in Odyssey, and June's uncle, Joe Finneman, still lived there, owning Finneman's Market. June was raised a cultural Christian, but never truly believed for herself. Connie did not grow up as a Christian. As a young girl, she would go to the cheerleading part of Camp Jumonville in Southern California every summer with her friend Marcy. One particular year, the camp fell in the middle of Connie's parents separating. Bill was leaving June for a woman named Lindsay, introduced to him by Bill's sister Helen, who is 8 years Connie's elder. Connie got caught up in the pranking competition at camp against a genius young boy nicknamed Goggles in order to drown out the thoughts of her parents. The competition escalated, and when Connie and Goggles both found out that June and Bill were divorcing, Goggles took the blame so that Connie wouldn't have to be sent home in the midst of the emotions of her parents' divorce.
When Connie was 15 or 16, she and June moved from LA to Odyssey. When Connie came into Whit's End for directions to Fashion Center searching for a job, Whit hired her on the spot. She initially was only looking to earn enough money to get a ticket back to LA, but eventually decided to stay around for a while longer. Over the course of the next half year, Connie grew more and more restless with the town, especially in response to the constant exposure to Christianity from working at Whit's End. She nearly left that summer, but stayed when Whit was severely injured by a tornado hitting Whit's End.
That Christmas, Connie finally decided to go to California for a visit. She felt emotionally conflicted by how much her friends told her that she'd changed. This, adding to her constant thoughts about everything she'd learned about God in the last year, finally culminated in Connie returning to Odyssey to ask Whit for help in becoming a Christian. About 6 months later, she and Eugene were fired from Whit's End for accidentally activating the applesauce program. Whit's End went into fail-safe lockdown, and Whit was forced to fire both of them until they could prove that they learned that when rules are broken, consequences are necessary, even if they're difficult. After working at Camp Wettanut during the summer, Connie learned her lesson after having to send Lucy Cunningham home for repeated offenses. Connie was hurt upon discovering that Eugene had been rehired, and she was offered a job at Blackard's Palace by Dr. Regis Blackard, but she was ultimately rehired by Whit.
Connie's first love was a baseball player named Jeff Lewis, but in the end she had to break it off with him due to the fact that he wasn't a Christian. After Connie had lived in Odyssey for several years, Bill came to visit, and Connie discovered that he wasn't dating Lindsay anymore. But he had left Lindsay for Carol, and left Carol to marry April. Bill was coming through town because his mother, Mildred, was ill.
Much later, Mildred moved to Odyssey to live with Connie and June because she needed relaxation for her health, and Bill and April argued much too much for relaxation. Mildred had a heart attack and died shortly thereafter. Bill arrived for the funeral with an extremely sour disposition towards life. He showed up drunk for Mildred's wake, but quietly watched the funeral. June truly gave her heart to the Lord after the funeral as a result of both Connie and Bill's reactions to Mildred's death. As Connie drew closer to graduation from high school, she decided to start up her own independent wedding planning service. Over the years, she's planned weddings, or almost weddings, for many people, including herself and Mitch in Washington, Eugene and Katrina, most likely Jack and Joanne, and, inadvertently, Tom and Agnes. As Connie came into her final semester of high school, she learned that she was missing a government credit, and would need to take another semester of school in order to fulfill the requirement. As an alternative, Connie went to work on Margaret Fay's mayoral campaign, as she opposed Bart Rathbone to take over Tom Riley's position. Margaret, in her continual bitterness against Whit rejecting her, sowed doubts in Connie's mind about Whit's integrity and principles of sexual equality. Connie discovered what she believed was a gross salary discrepancy between herself and Eugene, and quit Whit's End as a consequence. Tom explained to her that there was no real discrepancy, but that rather, Connie actually made a bit more than Eugene, and that Whit had been putting away part of Connie's salary in a trust fund for her since she started working at Whit's End, so that she'd have a decent college fund upon graduation. Connie returned working at Whit's End.
Connie was valedictorian of her graduating year at Odyssey High. However, many problems occurred when Connie was told that she was not allowed to perform the opening prayer that she wrote. Instead, she was supposed to read a prayer that didn't mention God or any of the things that she believed were the most important aspects of the true prayer. In the end, Connie broke the 50-year tradition of starting the graduating ceremony with a prayer by refusing to pray any prayer at all, since both options violated her conscience.
After graduation, Connie decided that she would not go on directly to college, but would continue working at Whit's End for at least a year. However, plans changed slightly when the angel Malachi came to Odyssey and told Connie to go to Tom Riley's house. Connie was hired as the director of Tom's new retreat center, the Timothy Center. Connie continued to work at Whit's End while simultaneously directing the center. Shortly after Novacom moved to Odyssey, Connie met and was smitten by Robert Mitchell, Novacom's public relations representative. Their relationship grew quite serious quite quickly, but Connie became increasingly distrustful of his many secrets, especially in light of the ever-deepening mystery around Novacom and Andromeda. Connie finally decided to trust Mitch on the same night that the FBI reported his murder. Connie was absolutely broken, and was finally able to function again just in time to learn that Mitch was not in fact dead, but he was in the Witness Protection Program, and that his murder had been staged by the FBI. Mitch and Connie continued dating through the end of the Novacom saga, but Mitch had serious troubles finding work after his involvement with Andromeda. He finally decided to take Agent Peter Borland's offer and join the FBI.
Mitch moved to Virginia for FBI training, and he and Connie continued to date long distance. Connie was worried that she and Mitch were becoming too distant, and that she was losing him, so she took a road trip to Washington with Joanne Allen, while Joanne was going down to sell a compass at the Smithsonian.
During Connie's visit, Mitch was accepted to a 2-year training program at the International Law Enforcement Academy in Budapest, Hungary. Connie wanted to go with him, so Mitch proposed to her. They spent the next 3 days planning their wedding, but ultimately decided to call it off, realizing that their lives were headed in different directions, and that even though they still loved each other, they weren't meant to be together. Connie returned to Odyssey. After Rusty Gordon, a former Odyssey resident, wrote a book about his experiences in the town, bashing many of the people, Connie decided to write her own book, chronicling her own experiences and lessons learned in Odyssey. She began her book, entitled Tales of a Small Town Soda Jerk, as a secret, but as with most of Connie's secrets, it wasn't kept for terribly long. While showing Eugene her chapter about Camp Jumonville, it was discovered that not only was Eugene there at the same camp, but that he was the infamous Goggles who defeated the girls in the pranking competition. He was also the same one that sent himself home from camp for Connie's sake, so that she would be able to spend time with her friends rather than have to immediately face her parents' divorce. He was also that same person who Connie revealed in her chapter of the book that she may have had a small crush on, though she was quick to qualify and redact the statement after discovering who Goggles really was. Connie's book was virtually completed when Kelly Washington completely erased it to avoid having her name mentioned in it. It took Connie a very long time to forgive Kelly. Connie realized that she would never be able to recreate her book, so instead she created an audio documentary about the town. This documentary caught the attention of the editors at Home and Country magazine and resulted in Odyssey running for the best small town in America, which it may have won if it hadn't been forced to withdraw.
Connie's involvement in the Green Ring conspiracy was important, though much less direct than many others. She became involved because she was taking an art class at Campbell County Community College to help with Dreams by Constance. It was there that she met and became best friends with Pennywise, who would later move in with her. Mitch returned to Odyssey on assignment for the FBI and was engaged to another agent, Maureen McFadden, finally ending all possibilities and/or doubts that Connie would marry Mitch or was meant to be with him.
It was shortly thereafter that June died of a sudden and massive heart attack. Connie was absolutely broken, again, and Bill rushed to Odyssey. Bill brought with him July, or Jules, a half-sister that Connie had never known about. Jules is the daughter of Jan, who was married to Bill for such a short time that Bill couldn't even remember where her marriage fit into his long string of relationships. Jules had an extremely humanistic and pessimistic view on death, but through Connie's suffering and searching, she was able to reach out to Jules.
During the aftermath of June's death, Connie was reunited with Jeff Lewis, her first love, whom she hadn't seen since she'd broken up with him many years before. He revealed that he's now a Christian and a missionary pilot. Connie is currently working on projects to help him promote his work.
This has been the lore for Connie Kendall, up to episode 742, Drake the Cosmic Copper.
Whoa, I'm coming back from the other direction. That's kind of crazy. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching the episode. Next week, we are going to be doing a Mission Unaccomplished, which is episode review, which is the newest episode of the OAC actually it's not the newest, it's from last month. And we're also going to be reviewing Buried Sin, my second favorite Jared episode, so that will be entertaining. And anyway, see you guys next week.
As Connie drew closer to graduation from high school, she decided to become a scat singer, move to New Orleans so that she could fulfill her singing dreams after having them quashed by Simon Cowell. Lawrence, Mitch is going to be your new dad.
Being that, and then...
I wrote that Mitch was engaged to another...
That's interesting that they both have the same name. That was my thought.
I wrote Mitch was engaged to another agent, Maureen Hodges.
Connie was reunited with Jeff Lewis.
Luther.
Luther. Connie was reunited with Jeff Lewis. I said it again.
Right.
I've said his name so many times, I can't say his name properly anymore.
You filled the quota of how many times you can say one name in a lifetime.
Connie was reunited with Jeff... I think it's ironic that of all names, this is the one I can't say. It'd be worse if I couldn't say Connie. What? If I look over there and you're smiling, you won't be. Connie was reunited with Jeff Lewis, her first love, whom she hadn't seen since she'd broken up with...
I was doing so well. We're on the last paragraph. There's only 5 lines.
I know.
That's
all,
all, folks.